was driving from Bloomington up to Chicago when the state police closed the interstate right around Lafayette, diverting everybody off the highway. Now, it was snowing that night, kind of heavy, but I was fine with that. I like to drive in the snow. And I thought, well, the wind's blowing a little bit. Come to find out, we were actually starting a blizzard, but I didn't know that at the time. I thought maybe there was an accident up further on the highway. They had closed the highway. So I thought, well, I'll just cut over to the state road, take that up north, get back on the highway a little further up, head on up to Chicago. That was my plan. But as I'm driving along, the conditions are getting worse and worse. The snow is just coming down furiously, and the wind is picking up, and it's buffeting my car, and visibility is down to, basically I'm on the road because I can see a little patch for some reason on the edge of the lane was not covered in snow. So I could see a little dark patch there, and that's how I was staying on the road, and I'm like, I really need to get off this road and just hole up for the night in a motel, and I'll finish the drive tomorrow. Except every little town that we were passing through, it was like the little motels had no vacancy signs up. I'm like, okay, maybe the next town. No vacancy. So now I'm really starting to get worried because everything's getting closed up. Nobody's on the roads, and I'm out there with no place to stay. So I'm like, all right, if I cut back to 65 and I get up to the next larger town, maybe they'll have a few hotels and I'll find a safe place. So on the map, because this was before I broke down and got a cell phone, and I don't think they have GPS then anyway, on the map, it looked like this intersected with 65. So I'm taking this little country road in the middle of a bunch of cornfields in what now is clearly a blizzard. But I'm going to get to 65, and I'm going to find a hotel. And then my car dies in the middle of nowhere in a blizzard. And I have just enough momentum to steer it off onto the little sort of shoulder before the ditch. And I have no cell phone, and I'm not sure what to do at this point, and it's really cold. And so I see some lights eventually coming from the opposite direction. I'm like, okay, I'll flag somebody down, at least get me back to the town, and I'll figure it out. So I get out of my car in my lane and to flag them down, but the wind is blowing so hard, it's bitingly cold, and it's blowing me, and the road is so slick that I'm just moving without moving my feet until I finally get some traction, and I'm waving, and the car goes by. I'm like, oh. So I get back in my car, completely frozen at this point, run the heater a little while until I see some more lights. I'm like, oh, let's try again. Nope, went by. Now I'm beginning to feel like I might freeze in my car that night. I didn't have enough gas to just keep the heater running. I see another set of lights, and they actually slow down for me this time. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And up drives a white panel van. And I've heard enough horror stories about white panel vans that I'm, okay, a panel van, okay. And I look, and there's a man in the panel van. I'm like, all right, it's freeze to death or get in the van with a man. And so I get my keys out, and I put them between my fingers because apparently that's supposed to be good self-defense, but I'm not sure that actually works. But I put my hands in my pockets because not only are they cold, but I didn't want to offend him if he was actually a nice guy. So I get in. It turns out he was a very friendly man. He's like, hey, what happened? My car just died for some reason. It just stopped running. Can you take me to the other town? I'm not sure where I'm going to stay, but at least get me there. And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to meet my wife at the VFW, and, you can probably spend the night on our couch, but let me give her a call. So he's calling his wife and says, honey, I picked up a woman on the road. And I was really hoping she was laughing on the other end because I was going to meet her shortly. And so we get to the VFW, open the door, and oh my God, the warmth in this place was just wonderful. And, people are hanging out, drinking beer, eating pizza, being sociable. I start talking with the wife, and she's very nice, and she was, sorry my car froze, and said, sure, you can stay with us tonight, sleep on the couch. If you don't mind, our little dog will probably crawl up there with you. And I'm like, that's fine. She's like, yeah, we're here. They bought me a piece of pizza and a beer, really nice people. So she says, we're going to take a pizza home to our teenage daughter who's waiting for us, so we're going to get out of here pretty soon. And then she sees my wedding ring that I'm wearing and asks me, oh, so you're married. What does your husband do? Now, I was wearing a wedding ring because several years before that, I had had a commitment ceremony with my partner, my first partner, who was a piano teacher. And we, in our minds, were married even though we were completely illegal. But I'm in this VFW hall with some nice people and a blizzard outside, and I need a couch to sleep on. And I don't know these folks, and I don't know where they're at on this, their views about things. And so I said, my husband is a piano teacher. Now, I'm not a person who lives comfortably in the closet, and I never have been. I don't even know when I come out to people because we're just talking and it comes out and it's no big deal. Even a few years before this, I was sitting in a tire shop in Bloomington, and a lady was in the waiting room. I was getting new tires. She's watching CNN, and there's a story about a gay journalist who died. And she gets a sour look on her face. She looks at me and she says, I don't care what they say. Those people choose that lifestyle. And we ended up having a very nice and interesting conversation about how I didn't choose to be a lesbian. I just sort of figured it out. In the tire store. So here I am, VFW. I go home with them, a married woman, married to a husband who's a piano teacher. I sleep on their couch. Their little dog sleeps by my head. We have breakfast the next morning. They drive me into town. I pick up my car. Somebody towed it off the highway and brought it into the gas station, and it's running. Now, it just froze, apparently. Everything was fine. And I go on my way. Now, fast forward a number of years. I have a new partner now. And in the summer of 2014, after several years of fighting really, really hard to stop Indiana from putting a marriage discrimination amendment in the Bill of Rights of our Constitution, I'm in Blooming Foods in the middle of June, and my friend John calls and says, the courts ruled marriage is legal in Indiana. And I burst into tears in the middle of Blooming Foods. I was so overcome. And it was weird because I was joyous, I was incredulous, I was so relieved. And at the very same time, I could feel something shift in the world. Like I took a step from the margins into my community, and I hadn't even noticed that I'd been on the margins. I suddenly exhaled, and I didn't know I'd been holding my breath. But it was such a shift for me. So I look back from the tire store conversation to being in the VFW with these really nice people who were going to let me sleep on the couch and saying that my husband was a piano teacher because I didn't know what would happen, to now, oh my God, Jenny, we can get married, And we've come so far, and yet at the same time, I know we have so far to go in Indiana and in this country. People can still get fired because of their sexual orientation, gender identity. We still are dealing with white supremacy and even a resurgence of that in our own communities. So we have a long way to go, and I don't know what all the answers are for how to get where we need to go as a community, as a state. I don't even know if that nice couple in the VFW would have taken me home to their couch, even if I had said my wife is a piano teacher. Maybe I'd like to think that they would have, Probably, but I don't know because it was really damn cold outside, and I didn't want to chance it. The one thing that I do know is that I'm going to keep working to make Indiana a state where every Hoosier can be sure that they don't have to choose between safety in a blizzard and the truth of their heart. Thank you.